Hey, what's going on, guys? So this is a bootleg bust model kit here from Magic Toys of the RX-93 new Gundam. That's a bust model kit of the new Gundam that came out many years ago, and I recently decided to paint it. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of introduction before I show you the painted model. It's already all done, so it's not really going to be like a work in progress or anything, more just a showcase of it. But just to give you guys a little bit of background, this kit was actually gifted to me when I visited the Philippines. I think it was about 6 possibly years ago, a little while back, and I've just kind of had it ever since. Recently I actually thought, you know, I should just build that kit, so I went through and I got it all sanded and prepped, and I did like a test fit. I snap built it basically, and most of the parts that I could snap build. And I can tell you guys, the building process was just kind of fine with it on a lot of these kits that were coming out at the time. Especially there was kind of a craze at the time of these different bust model kits coming out from these different bootleg companies basically. And from what I know, what I've heard from different friends and people in the hobby is that they're kind of, you know, kind of iffy on the quality and the fit and everything. But this one was pretty fine. But then it was just kind of sitting around here for a while, ready to paint and just not being painted for a long time. And finally I decided to go ahead and paint it up. And that's what I want to show you guys today, my finished result on it. But there's a couple other things too that we can talk about, so let's go ahead and get into it. So yeah, this is not really meant to be a review of the kit at all, but like just to show you guys the kit, because a lot of you maybe have never seen this before from Magic Toys. I'll put some photos of what the kit looks like just straight out of the box on the screen there for you guys to see, but a few things that I'll point out to you guys, like for example, it includes this base, which I opted not to use just because I thought it just didn't really look that cool in my opinion. I thought I could make something a little bit nicer looking for the base for that. It has some plated parts. The plated parts are all in both chrome and in plated gold, and kind of depending on which part it is on the model, you're kind of supposed to use either one or the other. I eventually actually ended up just stripping the plating off of the parts that I used for that. And the kit did come with some waterside decals, which are pretty nice, and I will hang on to these to use these for maybe some other kind of future project. But the thing is that even though the kit is a 1/35 scale, these still look kind of too big. In my opinion. I think they would like just take up too much space on the model, because even though it's 1/35 scale, I mean, and it's a good size, these decals I thought were just too large. And so I don't know what else they might look good on in the future, maybe for some sort of like actual, like, I don't know, base that I'm using in like a diorama or something like that. I could use these not on the actual model kit itself, but on like a hanger base or something like that. Could use some of these on there possibly. But anyway, what I opted to use instead was some actually 1/100 scale decals on this, and here is the finished result. So I'll just kind of talk to you guys about a few aspects of this build, and then I'll show you kind of the 360-degree view around us. So obviously in regards to the base, I swapped it out for this base, which was just like a little cheap, like $1 or $2 little like tray wood like box there from Target or something. Just turned upside down with some stain on that. Makes for a nice simple base. Obviously kind of custom colors on this. For the color scheme, I wanted to do it like the heavy weapon system version of the new, so a little bit different kind of color scheme on it. And then another thing that I wanted to try out that I'm really happy with how this turned out was the security seals on here. So like that kind of tape that you see on the like aircraft and different things like when they're first rolled out. And you see it on some Ozu designs sometimes. Actually, the 1/1 scale new Gundam in Fukuoka, when they were first putting it together, they did that because it was like recreating, I guess, the scene from Char's counterattack where it has the security seals and kind of it has also some like covering over the eyes as well. I didn't go that far, but I thought it'd be cool to add a few of those around here on this. For the white, although it's going to be really difficult to see, there is actually a two-tone white. It is like an off-white kind of cream color white, like I said, to fit the heavy weapon system color scheme. If you can see here between this little part at the front and this part, it is very slightly different, and I'm talking like super slight. So that's kind of how I wanted it to be. A lot of like, I haven't really seen this model painted up very often. I was looking around online, I could only really find a couple of examples of how the kit looks like when it's actually all painted up. And normally what I've seen from other painted builds is that they go a bit more extreme with like the color separation of it in like the 2 or 3 tones of white, whatever. I wanted to keep it, you know, pretty almost unnoticeable basically, and I think that's how it came out. It's like really not noticeable at all. But one other thing too here that I want to show you, well, I guess a couple things, I take that back. This part here on the front does also open up like that, and there's not really anything particularly underneath, but it just kind of opens up and there's some more detail down inside of there, but I plan to just basically just keep that closed. But those pistons are a good example of, those were parts that were plated. Of course, I just stripped the plating off there and repainted those in silver. There's also some up in the neck, which you can't really see. And then obviously the other opening panel is going to be here on the side of the head. I wanted to have one open and leave the other one closed, but the detail inside of there is also painted and decaled, and you really can like hardly see that in there, but it is kind of somewhat painted. I feel like I should have painted a couple more details. I didn't realize that this part here on the back was going to show as much as it does. But anyway, I just wanted to keep one side closed and one side open like that. For the clear parts, the LEDs, it has LEDs. That's the point I was getting to next. And you push the button right here on the front of the chest. Is the button you press to turn on the LEDs. And it lights up the eyes and the head camera in the front and in the back. The LEDs themselves are green LEDs. But I also painted the clear parts, so there's clear parts in for the cameras and for the eyes that have these really nice detail to it. I painted the back side of those clear parts in a Gaia Notes fluorescent blue-green color, just to add some more color to those. And if you notice, the clear parts look kind of sort of a bit foggy, not super glossy. That was also intentional. It's not like I sprayed a matte coat over the clear parts or anything like that. I actually buffed those clear parts to make them intentionally not super clear looking. But anyway, so I like how those came out looking. Only thing that I really did custom aside from changing the base was here in the chest. If you look right in like this center part where there's those two vents, on the original kit, that's just like an empty square space there. So kind of like an ugly, very empty looking detail of the kit. And so I filled it in with a couple of parts. There's little vents and that little kind of hook part in there just to fill in that detail. Also, on the note of detail parts, I was actually missing a couple pieces. In here, these vents on the side of the face right here, the upper ones, there's a little detail part that goes in there, which I was missing. Both of those, and also missing the connection piece for plugging the V-fin into the head was another missing part that I had, so I just had to go ahead and just glue the V-fin on instead, and I think it works out perfectly fine. But obviously you guys can see kind of how big it is, but just compared to a 1/44 scale Strike Gundam here, you can see just kind of how big the model is going to be. So it's not like gigantic, but it is going to be, you know, pretty sizable, much larger than in your typical Gundam head that you're going to be building. Being in 1/35 scale. Anyway guys, let's just take a look around this. Now the head is articulated, as in it's on a ball joint there, so you could kind of move the angle of the head up and down, left to right if you want to. That's the only other kind of like really moving part on this. Otherwise it's just kind of meant to just be there as it is. So I think it makes for just a really nice, well, it's a bust model kit, right? So it's just kind of meant to be sort of statuesque, not like something that you're going to be posing really a whole lot of. And it was a fun build. Like I said, it was a pretty relatively quick build. I mean, you could certainly spend a lot more time on it. Something like this in this size and with the amount of detail that it has, you could go in and like paint every single little detail in a different color and do all that. I wanted to keep it relatively simple, just because I think with models like this, it's very easy to kind of go too much overly detailed, and like kind of thinking about it realistically. If you look at real world examples of machinery, obviously we don't have like real world Gundams, but any kind of large heavy machinery, it's not typical that every single little part and detail is a different color. I mean, like normally if you look at kind of heavy machinery, it's basically kind of painted in all essentially one color, and like some of the mechanical bits, like the pistons or whatever might be in like, you know, kind of chrome or whatever. But I wanted to keep the painting and the details and everything like relatively simple in color. And I was a little bit, when I was painting the colors for this, I will say for like the armor colors, I was pretty solid, felt pretty good about those. But when I was painting the colors, especially like the grays used for the mechanical parts of the frame aspect of this, I was a little bit unsure of myself, and I was thinking, I'm not sure if these colors are really going to be right for this, if it's going to look like quite right how I wanted to. But I'm really happy with how it came out. So I need to kind of remind myself sometimes when I'm doing builds, and sometimes I feel a bit unsure about the paint, to kind of just, you know, when you're choosing your paint colors, if you feel good about it when you're choosing it, you know, just kind of stick with it. A lot of times it may not look right when you're in the process, and then once it all comes together, you know, you can tie it together in the end. And then there's a lot of things, even if once you get it put together, you know, the colors are not quite right, there's different tricks that you can use, like doing, like applying a filter layer or something like that to kind of help to meld your colors, make your colors more cohesive together by just applying a filter over everything is certainly one thing that was an option. I opted to not do any weathering on this, obviously because I want it to look very fresh out of the factory, because I was going to do the security seals on it. For the security seals, I guess I should mention about that. the tape for that, it's just red masking tape. So I just tried to find some tape that would work good. I didn't want to use anything that would be too thick. It needed to be relatively thin. I think that something maybe a bit more glossy would have been nice. So maybe it would have been a good idea to like take the masking tape and spray the masking tape with gloss coat before I cut it down into strips, and that maybe actually would have been probably a good idea. But I just wanted to try it. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, like how it was going to look, but I'm actually really happy with how that looks. I think, yeah, maybe gloss coating the masking tape would have looked cool, but other than that, I'm really happy with it. I was thinking about also putting decals on the tape, like just to say like caution or whatever, but I'm kind of happy with just how it is. I really wanted to use the smaller decals on it, even though this is 1/35 scale, and as I mentioned, I used 1/100 scale decals on it. I really think that that looks much more size appropriate to this, and again, just thinking about the size of it in real world, you know, you probably would be able to see if it had like caution or whatever on the actual security seals. You would be able to see it, yeah, but I mean, it would be small. I don't know. It's another thing that maybe it could have done and maybe would have looked good or better. I don't know, but I'm happy with how this looks. So at the end of the day, that's kind of what's the most important. And I'm actually like beyond happy with how this looks, I should say. I was really excited. Like once I had this all put together and turned on the LEDs, I think this looks really good. So I'm very proud of myself with this one. And even more so, I'm just happy that it's done, right? So it's always a good feeling when you take something that maybe is a kit that you've had in your backlog for a long time. It's another very valuable lesson that I've learned, you know, in kind of my more recent years that I kind of didn't really know or think about too much in my earlier years of Gunpla, that it's always better to be done than perfect. So, you know, sometimes you worry too much about trying to make a kit perfect and doing everything exactly how you're envisioning it, and sometimes that kind of just like ties you up and ties you down to certain ideas that you don't think that you can do, or that you think you can do, but maybe you're not like ready, you don't have the skill set to do what exactly you want to do. It really is a good feeling just seeing your model be done and complete, even if it's not exactly maybe what you had envisioned at the start, or if there's areas where you can see, like I said, there's certain parts about this that I think I could have done better or could have done differently. There's a couple of areas of paint where the paint was maybe a little rough. I could have taken a little bit of extra time and care to maybe try to go back in, either like resand or repaint some of those areas where the sand was a little rough. But this was just a project I just wanted to just kind of knock it out and be done with it, and that's what I did, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, really, even though there's imperfections and things that could have been done differently or better. Let me know you guys think down in the comment section if you can find one. I mean, it was a fine kit. It didn't have a whole lot of fit issues or anything like that. I didn't have really a lot of trouble with it. I had to sand everything, you know, pretty good and well just to get everything prepped for painting, but other than that, it was a pretty straightforward kit, definitely enjoyable. It's cool that it comes with the LEDs. The LEDs run off of just 2 AAA batteries, which are like in the base under the neck, and the head and the neck kind of come off pretty simply. If you need to change the batteries, it seems like it's going to be pretty simple to do that. I love the fact that you can turn on and off the LED unit, which is the button right there on the chest, and the button is pretty well disguised as like a part of the detail. So the LED system in this is really nice as well, and it works really. It's very bright also, which is nice and looks great. So a really pretty cool kit overall. Everything is nice about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at this. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. What do you like or dislike about my work on this kit? Anything where you see that you are surprised about, or that you find particularly interesting, or something that you find particularly not good, I think that I could have done better or differently. You can let me know down in the comment section, whatever you guys might have as far as, you know, critique or suggestions or anything. I'm always happy to hear from you guys, so thank you all so much for checking out the video today. Obviously, we don't sell this kit here at USA Gundam Store, but if you guys want to check out some other different Gundam models and mecha models and paints and tools and supplies, there will be a link to USA Gundam Store down in the video description as always. And until next time, guys, thank you all so much for your support. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at this. Like I said, I'm really happy with the results. I'm really happy to share this with you guys. And thank you all so much for all of your support, liking the video, commenting, and or subscribing, making sure that you're subscribed if you're not yet. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Till next time, have a good one. Bye, guys.